Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. On our brief hour lunch, I'd like to officially call this meeting to order at 2:01 p.m. We do have all members of council here, as well as all members of senior staff. We do today also want to acknowledge that we're on lands traditionally occupied by Indigenous peoples, and it's Indigenous peoples that have cared for this territory for the benefit of future generations, and their stewardship is certainly recognized. We'll also be noting today National Day of Truth and Reconciliation in a report later on. I believe that is September 30th. So we will appreciate that at that particular time. We have not received any public comments on our agenda today. There was no supplementary agenda. However, we had a agenda item, and that was Mr. Fahner was supposed to speak on item 4A, but I don't believe there's anyone in objection to item 4A, so he has removed his delegation today. I'll ask at this point if there are any declarations of pecuniary interest. Not seeing any. And I'm also just going to close my Outlook so that it's not going to be binging throughout. No declarations. Madam Clerk, you're good with that? Thank you very much. We have a few resolutions. First one being of our consent agenda. And I have a resolution moved by Councillor Bridgman, seconded by Councillor Jagowitz. Be it resolved that the mayor and clerk adopt and enact the following minutes and recommendations contained in the September 15th, 2021 consent agenda, and direct staff to proceed with all necessary administrative actions. Those being number 1, August 6th, 2021 Special Planning Committee minutes, and that's action item number 3. August 11th, GNF. Action items 1, 3, and 8, or 1, 3 to 8, excuse me. August 11th, council minutes. August 12th, planning committee meeting minutes. Action items 2 through 7. August 31st, planning committee minutes. That was a special planning committee meeting minutes. And September 1st, special planning committee meeting minutes. And that is action item number 3. Council, do we have any questions regarding that resolution? Councillor Roberts.
Thank you, Chair, and through you. I have something with the last planning meeting of August, omission of names in opposition to the applicant, and I'll bring it right up here so I have it in front of me here. This is the Algonquin application 7BA-08/21 bylaw 2021-034. There were missing names from that list, including 5 emails to the township, and there was no mention to of the petition that was forwarded to the township. And when I went through the list of names on the petition, there were 3 names that were there that should be noted in the minutes. So how do I go about having those additions and not stopping the approval of these minutes?
So Councillor Roberts, you're referring to the August 12th planning committee meeting?
That's correct.
In minutes for correction. Madam Clerk, if I'm not mistaken, we can suggest as amended, and we can have Councillor Roberts submit the actual names going forward, who was missed off that list, if that's
Thank you
for her comment.
Yeah, we would have to.
Okay, so we will be doing that, Councillor Roberts. We appreciate that. You can send in those specific corrections, more of a typographical error than anything missed. So I will also amend that to the August 12th, 2021 Planning Committee meeting minutes as amended. And action items 2 through 7. Okay. Any further comments? Thank you for that, Councillor Roberts. I'll call the question. All those in favor? Madam Clerk, that is carried unanimously. Thank you very much. We do have one other item of business, and that is regarding bylaw 9B1 today under the name of Benson. There was some technical information that was required for an easement over the lands regarding the bell tower. And so I do have a resolution here. Madam Clerk, do you need staff to introduce this, or we can probably just amend the resolution? It's more of a technical wording, is it not?
It's report number 8.
It would be report number 8.0 today. 80 IJK LMNO. and its conditions regarding consent. So I'm going to read this resolution. It's moved by Councillor Edwards, seconded by Councillor Hayes. Be it resolved that the August 12th, 2021 Planning Committee recommendation number 1, consent application B 303121 ML Benson, roll 412-2, be enacted for action with the addition of the following condition. And that is number 5, an easement over the subject lands to be granted to Bell Canada to protect existing aerial facilities, supply service in the subject lands, and to maintain service in the area. Any comments on that? All those in favor? Madam Clerk, that too is unanimous. Thank you very much. Moving along, we have a couple of reports, or notices of motion moved by Councillor Edwards and the second by Councillor Hayes regarding Lyme disease. Council, do you have any questions on this resolution? Appreciate Councillor Edwards for bringing this forward. So moved by Councillor Edwards, second by Councillor Hayes. Be it resolved, the Township of Muskoka Lake supports the City of St. Catharines resolution of June 11th, 2021 regarding Lyme disease treatment and care. Any further comments? I'll call the question. All those in favor? Madam Clerk, we're carried. Thank you. I have a second one regarding, where am I here? Did I miss this? Truth and Reconciliation? Yes. So we had received some correspondence. As mentioned, we're using, excuse me, September 30th as National Day of Truth and Reconciliation, National Orange Shirt Day. And I'm going to read this resolution. It's moved by Councillor Bridgman, seconded by Councillor Edwards. Whereas the Truth and Reconciliation Commission released its final report on June 2nd, 2015, which includes 94 calls to action to readiness, to redress the legacy of residential schools and advance the process of Canadian reconciliation. And whereas the recent discoveries of remains and unmarked graves across Canada have led to increased calls for all levels of government to address the recommendations in the TRC's call to action. And whereas all Canadians and all orders of government have a role to play in reconciliation. And whereas recommendation number 80 of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission called upon federal government in collaboration with Aboriginal peoples to establish as a statutory holiday a National Day for Truth and Reconciliation to ensure that public commemoration of the history and legacy of residential schools remains a vital component of the reconciliation process. And whereas the federal government has announced September 30th, 21 as the first National Day of Truth and Reconciliation, or National Orange Shirt Day, and a federal holiday, now therefore be it resolved that the Council of the Township of Muskoka Lakes does hereby commit to recognizing September 30th, 2021 as a National Day of Truth and Reconciliation, National Orange Shirt Day, by sharing the stories of residential school survivors, their families, and communities. I'll also advise that as a municipality, we will be raising an Indigenous flag here at the Township office for that day as well. Any other comments or questions on this resolution? I'll call the question. All those in favor? That is carried. And Megwitch. Okay, moving along. Where am I at? Proclamations. We have a senior management report regarding our proclamations policy. I'll ask before I read the resolution. Do we have any questions regarding the policy as recommended to us today? I'm not seeing any, so I'm going to read the resolution, which is moved by Councillor Kelly and seconded by Councillor Mazan. Be it resolved that Council approve the Township Proclamation Policy CLS 17 as outlined in Appendix I to the staff report entitled Proclamations Policy and dated September 15th, 2021, and that the Township Policy CCAO 14 Directive of Fundraising Campaigns be amended to remove Standard 3 regarding public proclamations. Any further comments? All those in favor? Madam Clerk, we're carried. Thank you. Let me see here. Where's our next report? Fast forward a little bit. Intake 2, thank you. There we go. It's a resolution moved by Councillor Nishikawa, seconded by Councillor Roberts. Be it resolved that council authorize staff to issue a joint request for proposal with the town of Huntsville for modernization for municipal account software application, and that council authorize staff to enter into a memorandum of understanding with the town of Huntsville regarding the equal cost sharing for the approved municipal modernization program funding, intake 2, for this update of municipal accounting software project. Councillor Hayes has a question.
Yes, through you to Mr. Donaldson. On your page 107, the second bullet point, a joint lower tier submission with the town of Huntsville for a review and an update of municipal accounting software. And is there supposed to be an and there, or is there something else that was left out?
Mr. Donaldson.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you to the councillor for raising that. That was an error in the transcription, so apologies for that.
Perfect.
Thanks, Councillor Hayes, for catching that. Saves Councillor Roberts catching that with the minutes of the meeting next time. Any other comments or questions? All those in favor? There we go. That's carried. And Councillor Roberts, by the way, that's a compliment to that you are that thorough. So thank you, and to yourself as well, Councillor Hayes. We have an award of tender. I'm going to read the resolution moved by Councillor Zavitz, seconded by Councillor Bridgman. Be it resolved that contract T 2021-25 be awarded to Polaris Inflatable Boats Canada in the amount of $41,157, taxes excluded, and that the fire chief be authorized to execute the necessary documents to proceed with this purchase. Fire chief has turned on his camera. Very nice looking ribbed inflatable behind you there. If you can spend a day on the water. Any questions from council at this particular point? Okay, all those in favor? Fire chief, that is carried. You have a new inflatable. We have another award of contract here. Let me go forward for breathing apparatus. Moved by Councillor Edwards, seconded by Councillor Hayes. Be it resolved that contract T 2021-24 be awarded to AJ Stone Company in the amount of $55,827, taxes excluded, and that the fire chief be authorized to execute the necessary documents to proceed with the purchase. Oh, look at that. I love the background and displays here, Chief Morrell. It's very excellent use of technology, and you're almost like a Vanna White showing us what's behind the screen. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Okay, Bala Falls Bridge, I believe, is where we're at. Public commentary. This is a resolution moved by Councillor Jaglett, second by Councillor Kelly. Be it resolved that based on public feedback, council confirms the 5-span base option, which is concept 2, as the preferred conceptual design for the Bala Falls Bridge, and the staff be authorized to finalize the municipal class environmental assessment based on the preferred conceptual design 2, and that finally that council authorized staff to proceed with the preparation of the detailed bridge design and the tender documents for the project. Lots of consultation, lots of back and forth, but to get to a design, very happy that we've gotten to that right now. Councillor Hayes has a question.
I do. Concept 2 is very much like the bridge that we have. And if I'm reading my pictures properly, 2A has a slotted area across, which with brick masonry, that is going away from the actual heritage of it. And I'm just, Heritage Group did request that this concept be 2, so I don't know how much weight that would carry, but it's, I just wondered what the counts were for 2A. I know that they're buried deep in here, but I'd just like to know if if they were outnumbered by a lot.
Director Becking?
Thank you, Your Worship. In response, yes, concept 2A only garnered 5% of the votes compared to 36% for 2.
Councillor Hayes, you
Sorry.
okay with that?
So we are going with design 2.
Correct. That is the staff recommendation based on the public comments received. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Zavitz, you have a question?
Thank you, and through you, not to throw a wrinkle into this, totally agree with two, that we did our own straw poll, Mr. Poa, et cetera. Everyone that I spoke to seems to agree with that. There was a couple of options that I did speak with Councillor Mazan in a long call one day as to whether we could create a little more Muskoka look and feel to that bridge with the entrance at both ends, sections of perhaps stonework, a little more warming to the Muskoka look and feel. And perhaps we did talk about a lookout. A lot of people seem to want to talk about the lookout overlooking the South Channel. And again, not though if it was a restrictive piece in terms of pricing. It seemed that it was $172,000 for the jut out, but again, it is a high walking score through there, and it will join Bala from one end to the other in a much more welcoming manner. I wonder, I don't know, Ken, is that number hard and fast of 172, or am I reading it incorrectly in terms of what the jut out might cost? And secondarily, I suppose, what might the 6-foot columns on either side at the entrance of both ends in a Muskoka stonework feel add to some cost? Can you crystal ball that at all? Or
Director Becking?
Thank you, Your Worship. The concept 2C that I believe Councillor Zavitz is referring to envisages a lookout that is an integral part of the structure. And because of that, the cost is considerable because of the fact that it has to be structurally designed. There are options for creating a lookout on the shore at one or the other of ends of the bridge. As it relates to wanting a masonry feel to the what is in my business is called the end blocks. Yes, that can be done. There would have to be structural concrete at those locations because they're of the impacts that they can take. That having been said, they can be faced with a granite masonry feel so as to give the aesthetic that you're looking for while still maintaining the structural integrity of what's being required. And that can very easily be incorporated into the design.
Thank you.
So Director Becking, what I'm hearing from you is we can move this forward right now as we go to a tender document, and then we can look at this as potentially an add-on to be able to create a little better facade on the column abutments in the front. So thank you.
Absolutely.
Okay, Councillor Nishikawa, then Councillor Mazan.
Thank you. Sorry, I didn't know that we were going to sort of reopen up what we can and can't do at this point. Was always concerned, again, since the 90s, being on a heritage committee dealing with Bala specifically, and the importance of maintaining as much heritage as possible. I agree with what was decided on option 2. I don't want to necessarily open up other possibilities to start spending more money because we, in some ways, are not sticking to the heritage requirements. And I get that. I don't want to, belabor that, but really the heritage is an incredibly important part of Bala. And it's unfortunate that we, the way that the process occurred and things, and a lot of it is COVID and all that sort of thing. I don't think we should be far, a lot of these properties are designated, And so I don't think that I would like to start touching this bridge in any way that we're going to move away from that heritage aspect. Again, not necessarily agreeing with what the district did when they redid that bridge, but I'd be happy to move forward with what the recommendation was at this time, and not opening up further conversation today.
Okay, thank you. And again, just to remind council, so the recommendation on the table is concept number 2. We would be sending that out for a design tender and an award appropriately, but that will still be coming back to council to award that contract. So we're not finalizing anything. And if there were little tweaks or changes that needed at that point that we wanted to add in, we would certainly have an ability going forward. Councilor Mazan, did you want a final comment on what's going here?
I don't know that I need the final comment, but I just wanted to add, simply because councillors have it brought up that we had in discussion. I think just adding to concept 2, looking at that picture on the one side, there is the stone masonry with a walk or a look at to the one side of the falls. And something that has been brought up to me by some constituents in that neck of the woods is, wouldn't it be interesting to have a lookout on the other side in a similar kind of way, that takes it off of the bridge and is at that front section? I don't know if it's northeast, south, or west, but on the left-hand side of that picture. So in our discussion, I think that's probably a little what Councillor Zavitz was bringing up, is if we're doing this, it's just a different approach, and can that be contemplated? So
again, what our director has suggested is we're going to price out and send for tender concept 2 as we see. And when we get that back in, we can talk about incorporating some additional benefits if we want. Councillor Jagowitz, did you have an additional comment?
I actually had a question for staff. Thank you. Through you.
Thank you.
I see that the suggested pricing or estimated cost of concept 2 is 1.8 million. Could you confirm, does that include all costs, costs to date, consulting, the 5% 15% contingency, and so on? Or is that just a base price with add-ons?
Director Becking.
It's a base price with add-ons, Your Worship.
Okay.
So supplementary, then what do you estimate the full cost of this project would be? And I know it's only an estimate at this stage.
Your Worship, I'm not able to give the councillor a definitive answer to his question. Typically, engineering on bridge works runs about 10 to 15% based on the complexity of the project, and you should likely allow at least 5% for contingencies and unknowns that at this point we've yet to identify. So I would suggest that something in the order of 2.1 to 2.2 is probably the likely final cost.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Again, council, we're not awarding this contract. We're just going out for design tender to determine how we go and when we can potentially move this forward. So you've all heard the resolution that I've read. All those in favor? Madam Clerk, we're carried. Thank you very much. Director Becking had one more, but I'm going to just read, moved by Councilor Mazan, second by Councilor Nishikawa. Be it resolved that funding for stormwater management systems inspection be increased by $35,000 in order to complete a full inventory, condition assessment, and hydraulic capacity analysis of all storm sewers in the township. I think this is based on some of our floods we've had recently, and we really need to understand, do we need to increase some culverts or not? Any comments or questions from council? All those in favor? Councilor Nishikawa, you have a question?
Thank you. Sorry, can't get my hand up fast enough.
Wave at me.
No, mostly I wanted to ask though, is any part of this a district responsibility? Like, is there any possibility that we can pass on some of these costs to district? That's all I'm looking for.
Director Becking, these were on township roads in particular?
In short, no. These are wholly and solely within the jurisdiction and control of the township.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments or questions right now? Councillor Edwards, is your hand up?
Yes, thank you. with the stormwater management, I thought Windermere Road 4 was a district road, and therefore the storm sewers from that would be running along their property, but it's still ours, is it?
Director Becking?
With no, a small correction, Your Worship. The proposal that's before you does not include Windermere Road. That is a district road, and it's
Okay,
their
good.
responsibility. The systems that have been identified are exclusively on township roads.
Okay.
Okay. Any other comments? Again, I had called a question. I believe we all were in favor, just to confirm again that we're all in favor of this. Okay, we're confirmed. Thank you very much. We have another bylaw, Public Works, permanent enforcement, as moved by Councillor Kelly, seconded by Councillor Mazan. Be it resolved, bylaw 2021-146 to amend bylaw 2021-120 to regulate and promote responsible enjoyment and use of certain township lands, be read a first, second, and third time and finally passed. Any questions regarding this? Not seeing any hands. All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Portage Landing Parquet. Director Becking, I'm going to let you just give a quick intro to this, because for those who've been walking through Bala, we realize our parquet is done. Ken?
Thank you, Your Worship. Council will recall that the municipality entered into a lease agreement with SREL to utilize certain lands. Those lease agreements terminated. As part of the lease agreement, the developer was obliged to restore the lands in accordance with an approved design. The contract, or the developer, has retained the services of contractor to do so. They have restored the lands in accordance with the approved plan as certified by the landscape architect. And it is now timely that the municipality accept receipt of the returned lands in an acceptable state, and that the township bylaw be amended to reflect that parquet as part of the township inventory of parks.
Okay, thank you for that. We'll hear from Ward A. Is there hands up? Councillor Hayes, Zavitz, then Nishikawa.
Through you, would it be possible to keep the park closed until the Heritage Group and the ACO can get some kind of a plaque recognition for the stone? Because there was talks about that, and we were requested to hold off anything until you had okayed the park as being able to be put into our inventory.
Director Becking?
I suppose that it can remain closed. It would, right now, the closure is being done by the SREL and the contractor. And they're interested in opening it so that they can have their funding returned to them. I would guess that, you know, we could take over responsibility for the fencing, but it comes at a cost. I would wonder why we couldn't install the plaque at a later date.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
That's supplemental, Councillor Hayes.
Yeah, that's okay. I will get in touch with the ACO and we'll do it as a media event then.
Okay.
Yeah, I think Councillor Hayes, that's probably appropriate. I mean, we have a park that was built for the public. We have Cranberry Festival coming up. There'll be public through town. There's probably not a reason to keep this park closed any longer. Councillor Zavitz?
Thank you. Through you, sir. I guess two-part question, if I might. First of all, I acknowledge the park is great, looks good. It's finished, it's ready to go. So I think that's a piece of this. I'm wondering if we approve this today, though, is this the end of SREL's grasp of all of our township lands in that exact area? And I have a second part of that question. So is this the end of it today, if we agree to this? if I
Director
might.
Becking?
As it relates to the three specifically identified properties, namely the Portage parking lot, the Portage Landing Parquet, and the Shield parking lot, the contractor or the developer SREL has fulfilled their obligations, and it's now appropriate that we take all of those back. The first two, the two parking lots have already been taken back. I understand that there are some other commitments with respect to some other small parcels of land. And I have been in conversation with SREL, and they have committed to me that they will undertake those other small restorations that are unrelated to those three specific properties.
Good,
If
thank
that's
you.
what the
If I might supplemental, thank you, Ken, of course. So to your point, that's exactly what I'm speaking to. There are fences on both sides of the waterway to the hydro plant that are an eyesore, and have been there. And I know Swift has communicated time and time again that they'll get rid of those. Would it not be conditional, the return of the funds on a final, get it done, inspect it all, and see you later? I don't know why we would give them their funds back when they in fact have not completed to the fulsome extent of the contract, of the agreement, if you will, at the Perks Landing area. So I'm concerned by that. I probably can't, I'm just ashamed, but I probably can't support this in accepting the park if we're giving them $200,000 back, and we may never, or we may have to incur the costs of remediation to the extent that you're well aware of. So for that, thank you.
Director Becking?
Your worship, I'm not aware of the two items that the councillor has raised as being specifically mentioned in the legal agreement. I stand to be corrected, but my recollection of the agreement specifically relates to those three pieces of property. The developer has fulfilled his obligations with respect to those three properties, and therefore you are now obliged to return the securities that are being held. If there was some other side deal, then that's something that's outside the scope of the agreement.
Okay, what I'm hearing, and Councillor Zavitz, maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, is you are basically asking, Director Becking has suggested that Swift River has fulfilled its commitments to all of the lands owned by township, in his opinion, at this particular point. But you're asking for us maybe to hold those till Swift River cleans up all of lands owned by other people.
Oh, that's, sorry,
assumption?
if I'm not mistaken, those are township, if they're not township lands, on both sides of the water concourse leading to the hydro plant, whose are they? And I sat with what's his name, Frank, and Bill Perkis 2.5 months ago. And Frank, to my face, said he would remove that stuff, remediate that, put tiers down, and bring it back to its proper place. So I'm not sure who owns that property. Director Becking would know.
Director Becking, is that district-owned land?
Some of it may be district-owned, some of it is owned by MNRF. I'm going on the basis of the agreement that was executed between the party and the township, because that's what we have some ability to control.
I understand that, but I'm not going to be able to support this today. I'm sorry, but I won't be able to support it if this is leaving remnants of the past behind. And if I have to pull the fences up myself, I won't do that. But it could take 5 minutes to remediate some of this. You yourself have told me on occasion that we could easily clean this up. It needs a little bit of landscaping. I'm not sure who owns it, but it's a mess and it's in our town. So
okay,
that's.
So I appreciate that, Councillor Zavitz. The one piece of clarity I will ask, and that I'm hearing from Director Becking, is that the lands across the road are not Township Muskoka Lakes lands. And I can look to our CAO, but I think we might be in trouble should we try and hold hostage Muskoka Lakes lands for something to do on another piece of property. I'm gonna maybe ask the CAO just to comment a little bit on that right now as we move forward, and you can choose to support it or not.
Thanks, Your Worship. I think if, like with most things, if we aren't in compliance with agreements and we take certain actions that aren't in compliance with agreements, there is some level of risk associated with that. Staff would need to review, re-review the terms of the agreement to advise council. But quite frankly, if the obligations have been met, I think contract would dictate that funds are returned. Thank you.
Okay, turn my mic back on. Councillor Nishikawa.
Well, just to go further with Councillor Zabit's direction, I have been concerned. I've been concerned about Divers Point, for instance. I've been concerned about those properties that Councillor Zabit was just talking about. And I remember the arguments. And so, you know, remember the days, Councillor Harding, when district dumped all those properties on the Township Muskoka Lakes without our wanting to accept them on. So I would say there is a portion of it that we did take over from the district, as well as there's municipal property, as well as there's Crown land. So there's a, you know, a little bit more information that needs to be tackled there. My concern as well, as far as the parquet goes, I think it's premature for the public to start using that facility. And my thought process is that I don't know where the public is going to stick. So that's all new plantings. That's all fresh soil. That's all, like, if we have any more rain events, lots of that stuff could get washed down. I really am concerned about us taking this back before it has been able to be established, and that in fact those damages are now going to land on that the township is going to have to rebuild those areas, because it was very challenging. I mean, some of us had the opportunity to talk to the contractor and understand the challenges that they faced. And I just think another month would make a big difference in the growth of the plantings that were done, but it was very difficult for them to get anything to stick for the longest time. That's why it took so long. So I just don't want to take over something that is a little bit premature, in my opinion. But again, there are other locations in the facility that are in our township that I don't feel that Swift River has completed their promises to the community.
Okay, thank you. Director Becking, typically when we do return securities and we look at the, Councillor Nishikawa brings up a good point, from plantings to survive, we allow usually a 12-month period or whatever to make sure they do survive and are growing next year. Are we returning a portion of the securities to make sure that, again, these plantings do survive? Some of them have only gone in the last 30 or 60 days. And I think that is an appropriate method forward in this particular case. Director Becking?
Your worship, the contractual relationship is between the developer, SREL, and the contractor. The work that has been done is subject to a 2-year maintenance period, and the contractor is obliged to remediate and restore anything that fails to survive the 2-year warranty period. As it relates to the security, I believe, and I'll have to defer to the treasurer, but I believe the security is in the form of a letter of credit. It's not divisible. So well, there's Mr. Donaldson. I'll defer to him in terms of what the current securities are.
Director Donaldson?
Thank you, Your Worship, and Director of Public Works is accurate. So we currently hold a letter of credit. It's not actual cash that we're holding. And what we're agreeing to is just to release that letter of credit. So then that facility is then available to the holders. So to try to parse that out, we would have to get a new letter of credit issued for a lesser amount if that was the desire.
Okay, I'm going to go to Councillor Jagowitz.
Thank you, Chair. Through you, I'm reading the report, and it says a 2-year warranty period is provided for the works completed under the agreement. And I believe, Director, you indicated that the warranty is being provided by the contractor. not by the party we contracted with. So let's assume that there has to be a claim under the warranty. We wouldn't be able to make it direct to the contractor. So it seems to me that I remember going back to legacy security, there was a 15% holdback for those types of things. And as far as the letter of credit, being a letter of credit, I'm sure a letter of credit can be reduced. So it seems appropriate to hold back something. That's fine. So maybe you could just confirm whether or not who has made the warranty and to which party.
Director Becking?
As I've indicated, Your Worship, the contractual arrangement is between the developer and the contractor. The municipality is not a party to that agreement.
Okay, thank you. And in our agreement, if I may ask a question, our agreement with the developer, we did not specify a warranty. We just know that there happens to be a warranty that exists. So our agreement does not stipulate a warranty, or does it?
I believe it stipulates that there is a 2-year warranty period.
Right. So I think there should be some holdback to address that.
Okay. I haven't heard from Councillor Kelly, and then I'm going to try and summarize for a second. And if I've missed something, I'll come back to Councillor Zavitz.
Thank you. And through you, I mean, the reality is there's a contract that will be very specific in its terms and will provide whether or not there's a warranty, whether or not there's a holdback, and also whether or not there's the right to offset the security for a particular project, or whether it can be generally across 2 or 3 different projects. Any decision to stray from the terms of that contract are going to be arbitrary. I mean, I guess theoretically you can do what you want, but you'll be offside, you'll lose the lawsuit. So I think the best thing is to let Director Becking, to the extent there's still some questions that he needs to go back and have a look at it. It usually is very specific and very clear. I suspect that this will be as well.
Okay, thank you. Director Becking, and again, I see Councillor Nishikawa and Zavitz hands up. I just want to see if I can move this forward. I think what I'm sensing from a number of people around this council table is that if possible, where possible, we would like to hold back some securities or a form thereof to ensure the warranty is upheld. And that's, I think, common practice for most of our developments, as we have our agreement with the developer, not with the warranty. How do we ensure that that warranty is fulfilled? And I guess the question is, if we approve today, can we amend this to say with a partial return of securities, which would involve probably a reduced letter of credit to them, whatever. Do you have any comments or advice, or do we need to pause on this for a little bit? I'd accept the park, but I think everyone is struggling with the return of 100% of the securities. Director Beckham?
I will have to, I think I would agree with Councillor Kelly. We will be bound by the letter of the obligation between the parties. And so I think we'll have to go back. Certainly, in any arrangement, the parties can agree to different terms at a different point in time. I can certainly attempt to go back and renegotiate with the proponent a reduction of securities as opposed to a wholesale release of securities. But at the end of the day, the parties will be bound by the obligations within the written agreement.
Okay, thank you. Council, with your permission, I'm getting a sense right now that we want to defer this in particular. I would suggest that it goes back to a legal perspective, if that can maybe be done, and we can send it out as this meeting is going on. Maybe we can circle back to it at the end of the meeting. Failing that, the return of the securities, I think, is the issue. Can we accept the park itself without returning the securities. So I think Director Becking, over the next hour or so, as we work our way through this meeting, maybe you could do some homework with us, or maybe check with our legal counsel to try and find us a path forward. And we will circle back to this item at the end of the agenda, whether we want to defer it fully or approve part of it or have a path forward. Does that work for you, Director?
I will do so, Your Worship.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Nishikawa, I see your hand up. All right, do you want to comment back in on this?
Well, I'm going to say that I find this very challenging. I think that there's more information that's required that is not going to be found in the next hour unless Director Becking gets in his vehicle and the rest, goes and looks at these other sites. And mostly my comment about, you raised it, but we see this often when it comes to, both district and improvements that require water management, for instance, where we've seen that we would release a certain amount. And I don't see why that should be different in this case. Apparently we need to spend money on a legal opinion about that. But I don't believe that we have fully acknowledged the other concerns in our municipal, like in Bala, that that Swift River, the lands that they occupied, and they should be cleaned up. And I don't believe that we are going to try to figure that one out in the next hour. So I really would ask Mayor Harding that we're not trying to rush this through just because it's an agenda item and we don't want to deal with it next month.
No, so I will suggest that Director Becking can also advise, and we can advise in the next hour, whether or not, and I think his one task is to confirm what's in the existing agreement and whether or not we can tie other lands not owned by the municipality to that same agreement. I think that is an answer that we can get going forward. So I think Director Becking, I think you've got some understanding, I believe, as to what we may and may not be able to do and what we can put into this agreement or not, because we do have a contract with them that we also have that we ask them to fulfill, but they will ask us to fulfill at the same time. So I'm going to defer this item right now, and we may come back to it. We may not, but I'll leave it right now. We'll at least circle back. Next item of business is economic development and some second intake community grant program. I'm going to go right ahead and read this resolution. It's moved by Councillor Bridgman, seconded by Councillor Edwards. Be it resolved that the Grants and Economic Development Advisory Committee's recommendations respecting funding allocations for the second intake of the 2021 Community Grants Program, as outlined in Appendix 2, Staff Report CED 2021-10, dated September 15, 2021, be approved, and that the Grants and Economic Development Advisory Committee's recommendation respecting the remaining Community Grants Program funds be allocated to the Community Improvement Plan Reserve also be approved. Any comments, questions on that? All those in favor? Our clerk's screen has gone blank, but those who are here, everybody's hand is up. I can confirm that. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to confirm that. Councillor Bridgman, you have a question?
Sorry, it would be after we voted. I agree. We moved this over. So can I just ask a question after you get your official vote?
I believe we have the official vote that is carried, and you may ask a question.
All right. Well, I'm wondering for the community improvement program, would it be possible to maybe designate this for maybe something like more of the sparkling lights in Bala and Port Carling? Because I think they've been a big hit. So I guess I'm wondering whether we can direct this small amount of money and do a little bit more within the two downtown areas that continue to give them light, so to speak.
See, our communication specialist is here, Mr. Moore. Corey, do you want to comment on that as an idea, or should it go back to the our Economic Development Committee?
I think, thank you, Your Worship. Through you, I think if that is the desire of council, we could certainly dedicate those funds to enhance holiday lighting, and maybe we delegate the authority to the Grants and Economic Development Committee to determine where those are placed, similar to the process we took last year. But I know we discussed it a little bit during this previous year's budget, enhancing some of the lighting. So I would be in agreement. I think it'd be a good addition.
I would agree with that. Council, are we in agreement right now to delegate authority to our grants committee and our economic development committee? That's great. Thank you very much, Councillor Bridgman, for that. I appreciate it.
Thank you. I'm going to thank Councillor Mazan for getting the ball rolling on this to begin with, because it's been great. So
The Christmas lights or the holiday lights year round driving through Port Carling and Ballard certainly appreciate it. It looks great. I have another resolution moved by Councillor Zavitz, second by Councillor Bridgman. Be it resolved that bylaw 2021-147 to designate community improvement plan areas be read a first, second, and third time and finally passed, and that the draft community improvement plan be circulated for public and agency comments, and finally that an open house and statutory public meetings be scheduled. Any comments on this regarding our community improvement plan? All those in favor? Madam Clerk, are you back online to view? We're getting there. We've got another monitor that you are there. That is carried. Thank you very much. Okay, we've got some declaration of surplus land and some flooded shore road allowance. I'm going to read these. Moved by Councillor Edwards, second by Councillor Hayes. Be it resolved that the following lands be declared as surplus. A portion of closed flooded original shore road allowance concession 2 lot 33 Watt, part 1 on plan 35R 26476 Chafee, roll 2831. A portion of township road allowance concession 7 lot 33 Bala, part 1 on plan 35R 26438 O'Brien, roll 749. The portions of original shore road allowance concession 14 lots 32 and 33 Watt, part 6 and 10 on plan 35R 26277 Lockington Andrew, Lockington Music Inc., rolls 227 46 46 2, and a portion of original shore road allowance concession 7 lot 16 Watt, part 2 on plan 35R 26587 Harris, roll 216 100. And that the clerk is hereby instructed to dispose of said property pursuant to section 8911 of Municipal Act 2001, and further that road closure and conveyance of bylaw 2021-131 Chafee, bylaw 2021-132 O'Brien, bylaw 2021-134 Lockington Andrew, Lockington Music Inc., and bylaw 2021-145 Harris be read a first, second, and third time and finally passed. Any questions on our shore road and our road allowance? All those in favor? Madam Clerk, we're good. Thank you very much. We have a new deputy clerk, and that's moved by Councillor Jaglowitz, seconded by Councillor Kelly. Be it resolved, the following bylaw be read a first, second, and third time and finally passed. And that's bylaw 2021-139 to appoint a deputy clerk for the township of Muskoka Lakes. Congratulations, by the way. And bylaw 2021-152 to amend fire department bylaw 2016-125 to include the addition of rescue animals in distress. Any questions or comments on this? All those in favor? That is carried. Congratulations again, Cheryl. It's official. Where are we going here? Moved by Councillor Mazan, seconded by Councillor Nishikawa. Be it resolved, the following bylaws be read a first, second, and third time and finally passed. Bylaw 2021-136 to deem lots 1 to 3 and 5 on plan M63 Bala not to be a lot on a plan of subdivision, and that is under the name of Murby, roll 7725. And bylaw 2021-137 to deem lots 66 and 67 on plan M63 Medora not to be a lot on a plan of subdivision, and that's Wilson Family Trust, rule 41777. We're moving some lots. All those in favor? That one is carried. Thank you. We're going to implement some site plan control. Let me see where I'm at here. Bylaw 147. Am I missing a bylaw? We're just making sure. 136, 137. I've got 136 and 137. 148 we have not done. I paused that one. I don't have a 147. I must have missed something. 39, 52. Yeah, I did that. Yeah, 147 is done. Okay, just making sure we're all comfortable here. And I am designating a site plan control for a number of properties. From our planning meeting, moved by Councillor Roberts, seconded by Councillor Zavitz. Be it resolved that the following bylaws be read a first, second, and third time and finally passed. Bylaw 2021-138 to designate site plan control to parts of lot 31 and 32, concession 11, parts 2 to 4, plan 35R 5100, parts 1 and 2, plan 35R 5199 watt, weights, rule 4, 1471. Bylaw 2021-142 to designate site plan control parts of lot 35, concession 12, lot 1, plan 32, Medora, Lang, and Mirsky, rule 4, 17-1. And bylaw 2021-143 to designate site plan control, part of lot 25, concession 11, parts 1 to 3, plan 35 R 24461 Medora, and that is the PCS Windermere Trust, roll 22572. Site plan control on 3 properties. Any comments? All those in favor? Madam Clerk, looks like to me we are carried on those 3 site plans. Thank you very much. Benson, which we already did earlier, we're just amending. We need to do this. Right? Moved by Councillor Bridgman, second by Councillor Everts. Be it resolved that bylaw 2021-44 to amend comprehensive zoning bylaw 2014-14 Benson, rule 412-2 be read a first and second time. We need a planning report on this, do we not? We have our planners nearby, just in case. Just a regular, these are just regular. Sam is here. Sam, I'll let you talk to this on the first 2. Sorry, I jumped ahead of, we're now into bylaws. Go ahead, Sam. Do you want to make any comments on this, Benson?
Well, we've already covered off the change to the conditions of consent,
right,
up at the beginning of the meeting, and now for the bylaw, there's no minor amendments required. The purpose of the bylaw is to rezone a portion of the lands to environmental protection, and also to restrict shoreline structures to a single dock and specific dock configuration, and to permit a reduced side yard setback for an existing sleeping cabin. And that's all that is concurrent with the consent application to create 2 lots and 1 retained lot. And
right.
If there's any questions, I'm happy to answer them. Thank you.
Okay, so I have actually read the resolution, I believe, by Councillor Bridgman, second by Councillor Everts, to read a first and second time. All those in favor? That is carried. Mr. Soya, no minor amendments on this particular one?
That is correct. No minor amendments.
Okay, Councillor Everts, you had a question? I saw your hand pop up and down. Are you okay?
No, Zoom, for some reason, when I raise my hand, it puts my other hand up at times, and that this is something new that it started. So I'm in favor of it. Thank you.
Okay, we're all good. I have a resolution moved by Councillor Kelly, second by Councillor Mazan. Be it resolved the Township Council amend bylaw 2021-44 Benson. And this amendment is, we do not want a minor amendment. Excuse me. Get rid of that. Moved by Councillor Hayes, second by Councillor Jagowitz, who is still in the room. There we go. Be it resolved that bylaw 2021-44 Benson be read a third time and finally passed. All those in favor? Hands are slowly coming up. I see a couple of people frozen. Haven't seen Councillor Kelly there and Councillor. There we go. We got everybody. Thank you. Mr. Soya, maybe you can come back on for just a second here and maybe explain. I think we've been trying to record the impacts that we would have received by the public when we made our decision back in the planning committee. Any impacts that we received at that particular time? Did we summarize it at that point?
We did at that point. I don't believe there was there was no changes made due to those comments that were received, and everything proceeded as planned.
Okay, I'm going to move on then to Mr. Donaldson, our next bylaw. Is that yourself as well, Sam? Oh, no, Caitlin, there we go. Welcome.
Thank you, Your Worship.
Quick overview.
Okay, So in August, Planning Committee heard concurrent consent and zoning amendment application in the name of Donaldson that were submitted to create a new lot fronting onto Dawson Road and rezone the subject lands from rural to waterfront residential backlot, WR2. No concerns were raised by the Township's Development Service Division or Public Works Department. 2 letters of support were submitted from public members prior to Planning Committee. A letter of concern has since been received from a member who's expressing a concern about the speed on the road. If council would like me to read the letter in full, I am able to. No minor amendments are required, and I have no further comments, but I can assist with any questions.
Ms. Darling, maybe you could just summarize the letter about the speed, and that's probably, I'm assuming, the concern with the speed on Dawson, or is it the speed on Windermere Road?
Windermere Road. They call it a
Road.
racetrack. Like on Muskoka 25, they refer to it as a racetrack. People are always well in excess of 100 kilometers an hour.
Okay.
They pretty much are just worried about how fast everyone's driving on it. It didn't seem to be fully have anything to do with the consent or the zoning bylaw amendment. It was more so a concern about the road itself.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Councillor Ishikawa, then Councillor Edwards with your virtual hand in the air.
Thank you. I mostly wanted to ask that, in fact, we did read the letter, because I think it's important when people go to the effort of communicating to the municipality that we respectfully acknowledge at a council meeting there. So even who wrote it and that they were actually fully heard. That's my concern. Okay. And I know that we're trying to speed things through, but I just feel that it's important that the public gets their voice.
That's a good comment. Caitlin, was that letter circulated to council, or was it just remained with planning staff?
I think it was missed.
Okay.
During circulation, I can read it. That's not
okay. I think that's appropriate. Before you read that, though, I'm going to go to Councillor Edwards because it may answer that question too.
Yes, actually, the gentleman that sent the letter in, I had spoken with. It was on the Brackenridge Road that he was concerned about it, not the Windermere Road. Right. And I believe the district have put up one of those signs that show your speed, and that just before you get to Dawson Road coming from the Windermere Road. So I think it has been addressed.
Okay, thank you. Caitlin, do you want to just quickly read the letters appropriate? Not quickly.
Sure. Good morning. I find myself sending this email as when I tried to sign into the Zoom meeting of today, August 11th, 2021, there was no link available to sign in. Perhaps it was me, maybe it was not. I'm not sure if you would be the correct person to contact in regards to my concern. And I realize now that I should have sent this before if I knew I could not sign in. I'm not concerned about the servicing of the property as a potential build site in the future as much as my concerns are for the increase in traffic and use of the public access across the street. Already Muskoka 25 is a racetrack when people are coming down the big hill from Muskoka Road 4. They are always in excess of 100 kilometers an hour. With any additional building going on, especially in this spot, there would be present a danger to people and kids who may cross over into the public access. Public access to the lake is a disaster. This area is not really maintained by anybody, from no grass cutting to no garbage being picked up to zero cleaning of the waterfront. The access leads to many people actually driving their trucks back into the water to try and launch their boats or sea-doos. I've actually seen people drive into the lake to, I guess, wash off the bottom of the vehicle. ATVs go out in the water as well. Totally ridiculous that this can happen. There are vehicles that park overnight as well. What I'm asking is what is going to be done about this access. It is not really a beach area. And if there is a new building going on, this area cannot support an increase of traffic in its current state. A couple of things I should happen to address my concerns would be of slowing the traffic down in this area, perhaps to increase OPP presence or maybe a speed camera. If there's a building going up, a safe way for people to cross Dawson to the public access is important. I have seen many times people almost come right into my driveway while going around the corner too fast. Public access needs to be properly maintained. There should be a gate so that vehicles cannot access the lake. If there's going to be an increase in actual people on the access and using it as a beach, then there should be a sound fence put up to limit the noise for the 2 adjoining properties. These are my concerns with the change, and I would like them to be brought to the attention of council to have them addressed. Please advise what the next steps would be. Thanks in advance, Mike Reedman.
Okay, Kristen, thank you. And I do apologize. I think I called you by the wrong name. Kristen it is. My apologies. Councilor Nishikawa?
Thank you. I'm glad that we took the time to read this. I think that it was a lot of information that to take in, but I would also request that letter get sent back to the appropriate staff, and that we actually look into this a little bit further. I'm not saying that it's, has to be here within 30 days or any of that kind of stuff, but there's a lot of information there that I think deserves some attention. So I would just ask that it be forwarded on. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, and I think Councillor Everts has made a comment as well that he's spoken with the gentleman and has satisfied some of their concerns. Alan, question?
Actually, it may have been a different gentleman that I spoke with, but what they're talking about, there is a right of way down to the lake there that people have been using for years. This will not affect this severance in any way.
Okay, thank you. So I have a resolution moved by Councillor Nishikawa, second by Councillor Roberts, be it resolved that bylaw 2021-81 to amend comprehensive zoning bylaw 2014-14 Donaldson Rule 2-11-11 be read a first and second time. Any further comments, questions? All those in favor? It's carried. Thank you very much. Kristen, any minor amendments to this?
So the one we just did, or the next one?
The one we just did.
No, there's no minor amendment.
No minor amendments. So we'll get rid of that. A third reading moved by Councillor Zavitz, seconded by Councillor Bridgman. Be it resolved that bylaw 2021-81 Donaldson be read a third time and finally passed. All those in favor? There we go. That's carried. And from a public input perspective, did we record our notes again back a month ago, or just this one submission? And we believe that speed of the highway really doesn't have as much of a bearing. Director Pink, you want to comment?
Thank you, Your Worship. I can't recall if we had this discussion. I apologize if it repeats, but I know Council has struggled with the effect of submissions and recalling those from the public meeting. What staff would suggest, we've done some research into some other municipalities, and they've addressed it by having a clause written on all their notices that essentially states that any and all written submissions relating to the application that were made to council before its decision, and any and all oral submissions related to the application that were made at the public meeting have been on balance taken into consideration by council as part of its deliberations and final decision on the matter. So I think that would cover your interest and may speed up council meetings somewhat going forward and avoid having staff pestering you to ask for your reasons for decisions. So if council is agreeable with that, we're happy to add those notes to future notices of any decisions you make.
I think that is appropriate, or in this particular case, council pestering staff for what was our decision from a month ago. So appreciate that, and we will move forward that way. Pride Marine Group. Kristen, you're up on this one as well.
Thank you, Your Worship. A zoning bylaw amendment application has been submitted in the name of 2130811 Ontario Inc., the Pride Marina, to provide an exemption from the maximum permitted height for a proposed new boat storage building. In August, Planning Committee recommended to Council that the application to be approved. There was no concerns from the district or the township departments, and one letter of concern was submitted by an area neighbor prior to Planning Committee. There is one minor amendment to add the submitted site plan as a schedule to the bylaw, so the location and extent of the proposed building is addressed and for clarity for interpretation. I have no further comments and would be happy to assist council with any questions.
Okay, let's go through first and second reading. Moved by Councillor Jagowitz, second by Councillor Kelly. Be it resolved that bylaw 2021-64 to amend comprehensive zoning bylaw 2014-14 2130811 Ontario Inc. Roll 41352 be read a first and second time. All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you. There is the minor amendment. Council, any questions regarding the minor amendment or any questions regarding the application at this particular time? Councillor Jagowitz.
Thank you, Chair, through you. Actually, it's not my comment. After the meeting where this was approved, I was approached by a couple of people who indicated that we hadn't adequately considered the view from the lake. In other words, that although this building is set back from the water and it is an increased height, it'll be very, very, very visible from the lake, and that the property in question has a lot of land, very large size, and that may have been more appropriate for it to have been located farther back. But those were just comments. My response to them was, if you're concerned about it, raise it at this meeting. I see no one has. So I just wanted that on the record. Thank you.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Roberts, second by Councillor Zavitz. Be it resolved, the Township Council amend bylaw 2021-64, 2130811 Ontario Inc. This amendment is minor in nature and does not require further public circulation. Is hereby approved. Prior to third reading, the minor amendment shall consist of adding the submitted site plan as a schedule to the bylaw. Any further comments on the minor amendment? All those in favor? That's carried. Third and final, moved by Councillor Mazan, second by Councillor Nishikawa. Be it resolved that bylaw 2021-64, 2130811 Ontario Inc. be read a third time and finally passed. Any further comments? All those in favor? Clerk, that is carried. Thank you very much. Our fourth and final for the day, Waits. Who we got to introduce this one? Caitlin. There we go.
Thank you, Your Worship, and good afternoon, everyone. A zoning bylaw amendment has been submitted in the name of Waits. Bylaw 2021-180 will have the effect of permitting a proposed dock to be 120 feet in length. There were no concerns from township departments or the district, and a letter of support was received by Earl Keene, a neighboring property owner. No minor amendments are required for this application. I have no other comments, but would be happy to assist council with any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let's go to first and second, moved by Councillor Bridgman, second by Councillor Edwards. Be it resolved that bylaw 2021-80 to amend comprehensive zoning bylaw 2014-14 Waits, Rule 41471 be read a first and second time. All those in favor? Anyone opposed? Opposed. Thank you very much. That is carried. Third reading, moved by Councillor Hayes, second by Councillor Jagowitz. Be it resolved that bylaw 2021-80 Waits be read a third time and finally passed. Any comments or questions from council on this particular? I'll call the question. All those in favor? And for the record, opposed. That again is carried. Thank you very much. We've got some future meetings that are dictated. We know when those are. I don't need to repeat them. Our next council meeting will be a workshop, a special meeting on October 5th. And then we also happen to have a special meeting, which is a district-wide joint council training session, and that would be on October 7th in advance of Thanksgiving. Otherwise, I think we're moving on to moved by Councillor Nishikawa. Oh, Councillor Nishikawa has a question, then Councillor Jagowitz has a question.
Yes, I just wanted to take a moment to discuss the meeting on October the 5th of the district review. I was very concerned, quite frankly, on why we even did this in the first place, because I don't know how much that cost to have 4 consultants on a call to basically tell us what district does. We could have just watched this at council meeting or gone through that exercise. And I don't know what this looks like in the future. And so I'm also concerned that we keep adding meetings. Where does staff have the time to go and do the work if they're always in these meetings? And I don't know what we're going to get out of this particular meeting, honestly. And you know, really it comes down, I think we heard that the impact or what summed up was that the impact was really that we would be looking at the planning end of it, whether we wanted district to look at that planning end of it. But I'm just not sure whether we should be having this particular meeting. It's not clear to me that what we're going to gain out of it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to refer to our CIO to come back to our council resolution where this came from and what it, the intent of these workshops, and then what we're hoping to gain out of it, first of all. But Derek, over to you.
Thanks, Your Worship. So I think the genesis for this started in our strategic plan. There's a provision in there to sort of have an ongoing look at our relationships with various partners. Committee and council directed staff to engage a consultant to take us through this exercise. So the last meeting, we sort of talked about the legislative framework. There was some discussion about themes or areas for review. I think the intent of the exercise, Councillor Zavitz, I'm sure, will corroborate, is to develop a strategy with respect to areas that we should explore in the future and the approaches that we should take with respect to continued advocacy for review and what I would refer to as evolutionary change. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Jagos, I saw your hand up and it's been, oh, there you go. Frank?
Actually, I did take it down because I will ask my question offline. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So I have a resolution. One moment. Oh, good point. Before we come back, I'm going to come back to Director Becking to see if we have any more information on our Bala Parquet. Almost forgot that. Director Becking?
I'm here, Your Worship.
Do we have any information for us? That's the real question. I appreciate you're there.
Well, I have the agreement before me. Section 6 of the agreement deals with the restoration. It's broken into two components, essentially, one dealing with the parquet and the others dealing with the two parcels, which are the parking lots. Subsection E reads, and I quote, "The tenant shall provide the landlord on or before the access date with financial security by way of letter of credit in the landlord standard form to be held by the landlord as security for the tenant's obligations to complete such rehabilitation, restoration, and improvements, and to be released by the landlord on completion thereof." Now, to me, it's pretty clear. There are no caveats. There are no yes buts. If you'd like me to, I can send it to legal counsel and get their opinion on it. But there is no provision in the agreement for holdbacks. So I think you're obliged to release the securities. That is my understanding. We can ask for another letter of credit for a lesser amount, but we cannot unilaterally withhold, in my opinion.
Understand. I'm getting a general nodding from a number of people. Councillor Bridgman first.
Just thank you, Mayor Harding. Just quickly, there is nowhere in this contract that references the lands that the fence is on or anything else. I just want to have that completely clarified. This is about catch.
Your Worship, the agreement has a schedule to it which very clearly identifies the three individual pieces of property.
Well, okay, thank you. You can't transfer to another piece of property. Then I am in agreement with Director Becking. This has been satisfied, this contract. We'd have to go at them another way if we're not happy with that fence. That's my opinion.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Zavitz, you want to comment?
Well, thank you. And what a perfect segue. Another way is me standing there numerous times talking with Swift River, which I shouldn't be doing. I shouldn't have to do. I'm not seeing anyone else picking up the mantle. There are, and I would ask Director Becking this, and I think we've had some discussions. There's arguably $5,000 to $10,000 worth of remedial work needing to be done simply to restore that property where they park the trailers. And created fencing to the water that simply needs to be done. I mean, creating those parking spaces again with railroad ties like Frank Belleric had committed to do. Where is that, Ken? I mean, there's my frustration. I'm not used to being ignored. And quite honestly, I'm happy with the agreement, giving them their money back, that's fine. But to Councillor Bridgman's comment, they ain't ever going to fix that parking lot. And I think we're stuck with it. And I hope that we, as a township, take that responsibility to go in and fix it, because it's a mess. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to just leave that and park it. Councillor Jagowitz?
Yes, I thank the director for reading out that part of the contract. It says, I'm sure, as Councillor Kelly will indicate, it's very sometimes difficult to read just one or two clauses. You didn't read anything about the warranty. Sir, is there a warranty section in that agreement, Director Becky?
Your worship, through you, yes, there is a section that does apply to the warranty. As I've indicated in my report, there is a 2-year warranty period where the tenant, aka SREL, commits to ensuring that the works will be satisfactory at the end of the warranty period.
So our procedure would be, if in fact that we have a concern, we would have to file a claim against them. Is that correct? We have no.
That is correct, your worship.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So the contract is clear. The completion of works, which we're at today, is a return of securities. The contract stipulates a warranty, but it doesn't stipulate that we can return securities after the warranty period, is what I'm ascertaining through what I've heard through the contract. I also, the contract is very explicit on 3 specific properties, to Councillor Zavitz's perspective. There are other properties that Swift River has certainly affected in the township, but I don't believe we have any specific leverage other than maybe a note, and it can also be a note from myself if you would like, to Councillor Zavitz, to help lobby your efforts to Swift River, saying we'd like the rest of the township cleaned up as best possible if you're now pulling out of town. So back to the resolution at hand. There is a resolution on table moved by Councillor Nishikawa, seconded by Councillor Roberts. Be it resolved that the Portage Landing Parkette works be formally accepted, that staff be authorized to release the securities being held in relation to the restoration of the parkette, and that bylaw 2021-148 to amend Parks and Facilities bylaw 2020-95 be read at first, second, and third time and finally passed. Any further comments? All those in favor? Councillor Jagowitz, is your hand up or no? I just want to make sure if everyone can hold your hand up to make sure we're comfortable. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, I believe. Madam Clerk?
I'm aware of the consequence of my hand not being up.
And those against? So Councillor Jagowitz has not voted, that is in the negative. So 7 in favor, 3 against, that is carried. Thank you very much. Councillor Mazan has a question.
I think my iPad's doing the same thing as Councillor Edwards now. It's just automatically putting our hands up. That's a strange new thing. Sorry.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Edwards, is that an iPad function or is that your hand?
No, it is my hand. The district review, that meeting that we had, the information that they sent out, the councillors could have read that. I mean, we don't need 3 or 4 and that consultants reading it basically word for word, and that I think it's a waste of time and a waste of money. And I agree with Councillor Nishikawa on this, and that if there's something and actually constructive, we have gone through an awful lot of that with the district, but hopefully they can get something fruitful. But I think we waste a lot of money on the consultants sending us a report and then reading it to us. Thank you.
Okay, duly noted. And I know that our CAO will be certainly happy to take those comments forward to the consultant for that next meeting. Okay. I have a resolution moved by Councillor Nishikawa, seconded by Councillor Roberts. Be it resolved that bylaw 2021-153 to confirm the proceedings of council be read a first, second, and third time and finally passed. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. One final resolution, moved by Councillor Zabit, seconded by Councillor Mazan, who's it's actually moved by Councillor Bridgman. Councillor Mazan's hand is just randomly going up into the air. You have a question? No, you do not. Moved by Councillor Zabit, seconded by Councillor Bridgman. Be it resolved that council adjourn. I'm going to adjourn this quickly at 3:25 p.m. And the next regular meeting of council will be held on Wednesday, October 13th, 2021 at 1 p.m. electronically from the council chambers, municipal offices in Port Carling, Ontario. All those in favor? That is hands up all around. Carried. Thank you all very much. We will see you all tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Maybe Councillor Mazan can get her hand fixed. There we go. See you at 9 a.m. Bye, everybody.